I don't know. Gears separates itself from other shooters in a lot of ways. It's a lot of it is the character-driven story. It's really about these characters and what they're going through. It's one of the things that I think when you look at Gears, it has such a range of emotion in it as a franchise that you can go from funny to action blockbuster to sad, and in times that Gears will make you cry, right? And so not a lot of shooters have that sort of breadth of emotion in them. And the fact that the story is driven by the characters you care about, Marcus Phoenix and those in the past trilogy, and now we're trying to do the same with Gears 4. We're trying to make these characters that you really care about and drive the story from the character perspective and display that full range of emotion. Though on a gameplay side, I mean, Gears sort of refined cover-based gameplay in third-person shooters, and so a lot of people have tried to kind of recreate it, and I think that there's something about the simplicity of Gears, that there's a complexity there that's hidden underneath that it's hard to replicate the kind of where Gears has gone with it. And I feel like Gears 4 is the next evolution of that cover, that it's that much smoother and that much more intuitive, that you can get in and out of cover seamlessly and quickly, and it feels really smooth. And so I find that, taking those sorts of things like taking those mechanics to another place, that other shooters haven't been able to get to. The fact that, we have a chainsaw on our gun on our bayonet, like Gears tends to dial things to 11. So we don't have hail, we have razor hail, and we don't have bayonets, we have chainsaw bayonets. It's always, and the same sort of thing with like when you finish off, have a finishing move, it tends to be over the top and dial to 11. And so we like to say that Gears is kind of like reality plus 20%. And I think that plus 20% is really what makes Gears different. I mean, I'm very proud of the evolution of the Gears. If you look at what happened through 1, 2, and 3 and how everything got better, like the cover mechanics got better, the story got better, like the way that we as game creators improved was reflected in the games we were making. And now with Gears 4, that we've taken it even further again. I mean, we have a whole new technology with Unreal Engine 3 to Unreal Engine 4. We have a whole new team with a new cast and new monsters and new story and new gameplay. And we've taken all the learnings from those previous games and we've refined them even further. And so for me here as sort of like one of the few I've been working or I've been part of the Gears for over a decade now. And to look at where we are with Gears 4 and what we're about to do on October 11th, and I'm just super proud and excited about what we built. And it's one of the better Gears games, and I can't wait for people to play it. Oh, how do we feel about pushing things forward? I mean, part of it it's a two-step process for us, really. One was not so much about pushing forward, but actually just sort of respecting the past. Right. We were a new studio with a very established franchise with very dedicated fans. I mean, these are fans who get tattoos and live and breathe this stuff. And so as a new studio with this game, we had to sort of prove we could do it right. So one of the big parts of our development was actually kind of recreating the past in a way to make it feel like Gears of War. But then we took that and then we built on top of it. And when you see things like Horde 3.0 with the ability to go into emergent gameplay where you have mobile fortifications and you have classes with skills, and it's just a fundamentally different way to play Horde than you've been able to in the past. The way that we've changed versus, so that instead of just sort of assuming there's a single audience, now we're actually segmenting our audience into 4. We have the new player, the social player, the competitive player, and the esports player. And we've actually been able to create features for all of them. But we have ways to make the game more approachable with co-op versus, where you can play against bots. We have ways to play more socially with Dodgeball, which is a more friendly and exciting game. And then for the competitive players, we have modes like Escalation, which is really about driving competitive play for high skill and having this sort of big strategic layer that sits on top of the tactical second-by-second gameplay. And then the story itself is just we're pushing storytelling and the game into a more contemporary place and into a more believable place. In Gears 1, 2, and 3, it was about archetypical characters and a little bit sort of a little shallower, because that's the kind of way stories were back in 2006. And for us, in 2016, we're trying to drive with more nuance and more depth. And then to really push that believability, Gears of War 1, they had giant steel moon boots that they were wearing. It looked cool, and that's why it was there, but it's not very believable. And so when we brought it here, we looked at trying to be realistic, and even realistic didn't feel right for Gears of War. So instead of chasing realism, what we chased was believability. And so instead of giant steel moon boots, now you have knee pads and combat boots that go together. That makes it feel like, even though some of the things are science fiction or meant to be kind of stylized and over the top, if you kind of wink at it or look at it, squint at it, you go like, oh, I could believe that, right? And that was something we really tried to do, is to push the franchise forward, was to give it that feel more contemporary. Coming to the Coalition, like I started back in January of 2014, and I like to say that it's to have that come into that much passion and energy and enthusiasm for Gears of War. It was like being back at Epic in 2005. It's one of those things that at Epic I worked on Gears of War for 7 years, and there's people there that were like, creatively, what else could I do? Is there something other than Gears of War that I could work on? And so over time, people were just interested in exploring different opportunities. And so, but I still really love Gears of War, and it's one of the reasons I ended up leaving Epic was because I still wanted to pursue that AAA game, especially something like Gears. And so when Microsoft got Gears, and I was able to come here and have a whole new team that was super passionate and enthusiastic, and Gears of War was on every screen, and it was in every conversation in the hallway, and we're just talking about how to make a great Gears of War. It was fantastic, and it was revitalizing, and it made it really easy to come into work every day knowing you're going in with a bunch of fans of the game to make it. What does Unreal Engine 4 opened up for this game? The nice thing about Unreal Engine 3 to Unreal Engine 4 is it allowed us to have Gen 8 visuals, to have those next generation visuals. Gears of War has always been a visual showcase. And so to be the same for Xbox One with, now we have HDR, and we're able to have, on PC we're doing native 4K, so you can see the game at 4K, which is the way that the authors created it. So you're actually seeing the game the way we made it. It's not, there's no, we had to compress pixels or add sort of an interpretation layer, compression layer between what we make and what you see. When you play it on 4K on Windows 10, you're seeing it the way it was made. And there's a lot of stuff. So, the rendering is awesome. There's a lot of great tools in Unreal Engine 4. Their blueprints, as an example, allow designers to actually go in and actually start creating features right away without having to have a developer. And so we're very much a prototype studio. So rather than sitting around and writing a bunch of 30-page documents about the way we want something to work, we rather go and create it in the engine and see what it looks like and feels like right away. And the blueprints allow us to do that. New weapons come from a bunch of different places. A lot of it is driven by story. And so that's one of the challenges, is a lot of times story and gameplay don't always go together in terms of like what we want from a story perspective maybe doesn't fit perfectly for gameplay. So a lot of it was like, for example, we know, okay, we're having two army factions. We have the DB robots and we have the swarm. And in gameplay, you need a sniper to kind of have someone to pin you into cover, to keep you in cover. So we knew we needed a robot sniper rifle, but now where do we go from there? And the big concern whenever you design a new weapon is, does it work in all aspects of the game? Does it work in Horde? Does it work in Versus and Campaign? So that's actually how we shared resources a lot of the time, is that we let multiplayer determine how a gun works, so that it made sense in multiplayer, because that's where guns are kind of the most important, and that they're balanced and fair and they have a place. And so we would look at, hey, what are all the weapons we have? What are the roles these weapons serve in our gameplay? Are they a support weapon? Are they a high lethality weapon? Are they low because of just trying to find balance and a high rate of fire but low damage kind of stuff? And so they would look at, hey, where do we have an opening? And then is the new ideas for the weapons from the story, can they fit into those types of openings? And so something like the robot sniper rifle was like, hey, we already have a sniper rifle, so how do we differentiate it? And how do we make it feel different, right? And then make sure it's balanced for both multiplayer and campaign. My favorite weapon in this game is probably the drop shot right now. So the drop shot is this weapon, like when we were trying to think about how to come up with new weapons, when you have a game that's based on war, it's very easy to come up with a new weapon because you just go like, well, in the war effort, they created this new way to kill the enemy. But story, it picks up 25 years after peace. And so when you have 25 years of peace, why would you be creating new weapons? So why would there be a new weapon at all? And so we looked at what was actually happening in the world during those 25 years, and really it was rebuilding and reconstruction. And so we thought, well, why not turn tools into weapons? And so we created these two weapons, the Buzzkill, which is like this concrete saw cutting weapon that actually would throw its blades, these circular saw blades, into the world to bounce around to take out the enemy. And then we have this one called the drop shot, which is essentially a kind of a mining tool, that's this explosive drill bit that you send out into the world, and when you let go of the trigger, it'll actually drill down and blow up. And it came because between Gears 3 and Gears 4, when at the end of Gears 3, we got rid of all of Emulsion and we got rid of the Locust. And we had a weapon called the Digger, which was basically the dig shot that would shoot a little creature under the ground that would pop up behind cover and blow up. And when we got rid of the Locust, those creatures went away. So we had this weapon that had interesting gameplay, which basically got rid of cover or ignored cover. So when we thought about this combination of, hey, we need a weapon, we want to base it on this tool, we wanted to have this idea of getting around cover. And so where the Digger would go underneath cover, now the drop shot goes over cover. And it has the same sort of functionality that it invalidates it, but it makes it exciting because you see this thing coming at you and you can roll out of the way and try to dodge it. But to play with the drop shot and getting a headshot where it drops directly into their body and explodes, and then raining terror from across the map is a lot of fun. Oh, going to the PC is really exciting because this is unique for us. When we did Gears PC back in 2007, it was months after the original release, it was over 6 months. And then even when we did the remastered Ultimate Edition more recently, same thing, we delivered it like months after the original release. So we've never had a console and a Windows version come out at the same time. And now with Gears 4, with that fact that we're an Xbox Play Anywhere title, we're actually simultaneously shipping them, so they both come out on the same day. And the fact that we're an Xbox Play Anywhere title means you can start on your Xbox and pick up where you left off in Windows, because you get basically both versions for free if you buy it digitally. So you can start one place, finish other. It shares your achievements, it shares your progression, it shares the content that you get for either game. And so it kind of gets rid of this device boundary you might have thought you had, because you can play it in either or. And then on top of that, we support crossplay. So now you have this ability to, hey, I want to play with a friend who's playing on Windows 10 and I have an Xbox, we can play together, or vice versa, right? And then we have crossplay, which allows those two devices to play together. So you have a friend on Windows, you're on Xbox, you're able to play together, and vice versa. If you're on Windows and they're on Xbox, you can play together. And you can play that in any cooperative mode, and even you can do it competitively in private mode because you're playing with friends, so it's okay if maybe things aren't completely balanced. So it's just like, it takes away what I really love about the notion of gamers now is that we're breaking down these boundaries between what it means to be a gamer. Like a lot of people like to bucket people and say, oh, you're a mobile gamer and you're a PC gamer and you're a console gamer. And what I love about having, Gears as an XPA title and being available on Windows 10 and on console and being able to play together is you start to break those boundaries away, and now you're just a gamer. And Gears is a great game, and so being able to play it where you want to play it is really important. So the evolution of the cover system really is a combination of things. One is just the usual, what you see the evolution from 1, 2, and 3 to now 4 is just basically making it smoother and more intentional. Like a lot of times in Gears 1, you would get stuck when you didn't mean to. Like you would get sucked in the cover and you didn't want to. And so what you see through 1, 2, 3, and now 4 is just the entire base system, the foundational system of cover just gets better and better and better and gets smoother, feels more fluid, it feels more intentional. It's not catching you by accident. You're not making mistakes. And then we looked at when we wanted to push cover, where are the things not quite working? And we always had this sort of awkward moment in cover, which is when two people share the same piece of cover. And so you have one person on one side and one person on the other, and you were sort of too close for gun combat, but too far to really melee each other. And so it just looked funny. And we always don't want, one of our goals for Gears is never to have the character do something stupid. That's why you never see them running against a wall, right? We don't want the character to look bad. And so this moment where these two people, or the monster and the character, come to the same piece of cover, it can break down pretty quickly and look kind of silly. And so we actually designed features around dealing with that. And so that was one of the big things we did, was create this thing called basically a yank. And we jokingly call it the yank and shank, because what allows you to do is you can actually reach over, grab that person and pull them over to your side and then stab them with your combat knife, right? And so that it gives you a solution for that particular scenario. And then on top of that, we allowed for a vault kick. And in the past, if you wanted to mantle over a piece of cover, or you wanted to kick that person who's on the other side, you had to go into cover, break your movement, and then do sort of this big deliberate movement afterwards. Now with vaulting, you can actually, as you approach cover, you can say that you want to do that, and you'll actually just fluidly do it. And so it allows you to move through the world, quicker and smoother. But also, if there's a victim on the other side that you can vault kick into, you can pull out your combat knife and stab them in the head if you want to. Yeah, actually, that's something we haven't really talked about. The notion of split screen on PC is something we haven't been talking about. And it's because we really wanted to see that we could deliver something that met our expectations. And I'm happy to say that, yes, we actually will be able to play split screen on PC for co-op, which is great. Much like the PC version of all of the previous ones, whether Gears 1, Gears Ultimate Edition, and now Gears of War 4, will definitely be supporting keyboard and mouse and the ability to remap those controls on PC. Probably the biggest tip I could give somebody playing the new Horde mode is really to think about playing your class. Like one of the new features in Horde is the ability to play one of 5 classes, like the sniper, the engineer, the scout, the heavy, the soldier. And what you have to look at is to pick a class that sort of suits your style. If you're playing the scout, that's somebody who's supposed to be out front with a shotgun, picking up all the power that's dropping on the field. And you really want to play into that. Like you want to play your style. If you pick the wrong class and you don't play to it, and like if you're the scout but you stay behind and you never go out, or you're the engineer but you never build anything, or you're the heavy and you pick up the wrong types of weapons, like the non-heavy weapons, then you're really hurting yourself in terms of getting your success. And probably the other is just a bigger strategy around thinking about the early waves as preparation for the later waves. Whether it's using 1 through 8 to prepare for 9 and 10, or it's using 10 through 40 to prepare for those last 10. Like, those are big pushes at the end. You know, as you push through a boss wave, as you push through the end of the whole 50 waves, you need to think about building towards that and being prepared for that. But you can't really take on a boss by yourself. You need to have fortifications, you need to have barriers, you need to have sentries, you need to have decoys. So you want to use those, first 7-8 waves to start building up enough power so that you can go to the fabricator and build those things and place them so that you're ready for the bosses. And that's true across the entire journey all the way to 50, is that when you get to 50, you want to have a lot of fortifications down. You want to have a lot of assistance, because that boss that has 2.5 times health, 2.5 times accuracy, and 2.5 times damage, that's hard to do with just 5 people with a gun. You need to have all that support from the fortifications that Horde allows, and so you really have to build towards that.